is. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hello and welcome to our special 2025 Belmont Stakes preview right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Along next to me, Paul Halloran, co-host of Picks and Ponies, Patrick Kunzel, co-host of Bet and Booze, and on the bottom of the screen, other co-hosts of Bet and Booze, and Charlie Freeman, and co-host of Pacific Horse Players, Mr. Jackson Muniz. We are here to break down what should be an unbelievable 2025 Belmont Stakes at, of course, Saratoga Racetrack. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And we've got a fantastic tip sheet. Look below the video player in the description about our Power Picks tip sheet. We also have a great website as well, hhhracingpodcast.com. Gentlemen, it's going to be an unbelievable day of racing on Saturday, capped off Paul Halloran by the Belmont Stakes. I don't know about you, Paul, but I'm not too concerned about field sizes in any Belmont as long as it has the best 3-year-olds on dirt in the country. I think that certainly is the case this Saturday with Baeza, Journalism, and the other and Sovereignty, the Derby winner. We have the 3 best horses running, Paul. That's what you really want to see, right?
I agree. Yes, and more importantly, there's a couple of outliers here, but I don't know. I could make a pretty cogent argument on the chances to win of any horse. Now, Heart of Honor is 30-1, and probably needs a 2-mile race. My point is, I don't think anyone is a hopeless throwout here. Like no chance. Maybe Uncaged. Uncaged is probably the biggest reach. But my point is that you do have the top 3, and Hill Road is running great. Rodriguez won the Wood. A lot of people liked Rodriguez in the Derby. I think some people on this screen. And I don't know how good the field was in the Surbiton, and I know we're going to talk about these horses, so I should shut up. But Crudo, my point is, it's the best horses, and it's a pretty deep field. So I'm with you, Uncle.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun this Saturday. Let's go ahead and look at the field, guys, and we'll talk about each horse. Please, again, make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Please hit the notification bell the top right on YouTube, and smash that like button below the video player. That will send like-minded horse players to the HHH Racing Podcast. We really do appreciate your support. Let's go ahead and look at the field right now as I'm going to bring it up on screen. Like I said, it's a field of 8. We are filming this, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, on Tuesday afternoon. They had the draw yesterday, Monday night. Here comes the field right now up on the screen. It is a field of 8. Hill Road is 10-1 on the inside for Irad and Chad. The Derby winner, Sovereignty Jr. and Bill Mott, 2-1. Rodriguez, Baffert, and Smith, 6-1. 2 Pletchers right next to each other, Uncaged, a long shot, 30-1. Saez, Crudo, a very interesting horse who should show some speed, and ideally, I think a lot of people would hope, keeps Rodriguez company on the front end. 15-1 for ownership of Bobby Flay, Johnny V. Baeza, John Sheriffs ran a huge race in the Derby to finish a closing 3rd from the far outside post. Of course, Journalism with a miraculous and unbelievable effort in the Preakness. He is the morning line favorite at 8-5. And then Jamie Osborne, ridden by the horse is Heart of Honor, 30-1, ridden by the trainer's daughter, Safi Osborne. Guys, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to bring up your full screen, or put you on full screen, and we'll go ahead. We're going to just rotate in order, and we'll go ahead and talk about each horse for about 3 minutes approximately, guys, maybe about 2 minutes, and then we'll talk about the pace projector, etc., and we'll go over our top choices. So here comes the past performances. We'll go Paul, Patrick, Charlie, Jackson, snake it around in that order, and I will input a few things as well. Paul, let's first talk about the number 1 Hill Road for Chad, who has had an interesting career so far and won the Peter Pan last time, a grade 3, the local prep for the Belmont.
Yeah, this is a horse that I really liked as a long shot, 60-1 in the juvenile last year when we all convened at Del Mar. I thought the horse ran well, just had too much to do. Uh, Came back and Chad kind of ran him in a all or nothing Tampa Derby. I think if he had won that race, he would have gone on to Kentucky, ran third. Again, too much to do. And then all of a sudden, last time in the Peter Pan, not too much to do, comes from sixth. This is a horse on the improve. I think this horse is dangerous. Uh, the bad news is you lose Pratt. The good news is you pick up Irad. The only issue is where he will be in the flow of the race. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. This does not look like a particularly fast-paced race to me, so that could be a problem for this horse. But I do think this is a quality horse. I think 10-1 is just about right, and certainly I think a horse you have to use underneath.
Ran a very credible race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Was a bit of a buzz horse in the off season, so to speak. Had some injury issues. Took a little time to come back. Hill Road, interesting. You got Chad and Ivor at a price in a classic race. Sounds interesting. Let's talk about the number 2, who I can't believe I had a little brain cramp there. Forgot the name of the Derby winner. Patrick Sovereignty. I'll tell you what, a lot of people on this podcast liked him. If you don't believe us, ladies and gentlemen, go back and watch our Belmont shows. Somehow the horse won almost 8-1, Patrick, and did absolutely nothing wrong with another brilliant ride and training job by Alvarado and Mott, and is very logical in this spot, and I suppose could improve off that effort, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, you would think so. The way the horse has been working, watching some of those videos, looks to be all systems going here. I mean, obviously, horse racing fans were a little understandably upset them bypassing the Preakness, but I think as a sovereignty backer in the Derby, this makes me even more comfortable knowing Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott, has been able to get this horse up into Saratoga for a while now and had this horse working, very straightforward in here. And I just think, in this spot, we do have to worry about the pace a little bit, but I do think we'll need to be a little bit more forwardly placed in here. But off a little bit of a layoff and a refreshing, this is going to, I think we're getting the best sovereignty on Saturday.
Patrick, this is probably a silly question, but I have to ask it. There is quite a bit of pushback against Mott for his comments about the Preakness. I'm not going to say people are, all of a sudden hate Bill Mott, but is there any chance at all that the casual bettor who knows what Bill Mott said might not want to bet this horse, and for some bizarre reason we might get a slightly higher price just because of that he skipped the Preakness, and there's a little bit of uncomfortability with Sovereignty missing that race in the betting windows on Saturday?
Well, I think it'd be foolish if they do, but yes, I bet you there are people out there that will do that, and that's fine. I do think, though, obviously, Bill Mott has always taken the horse first, and with these connections, I mean, Paul can allude to it. They're doing what's best for them and what's best for the horse.
No
Always.
question. Charlie, let's talk about Rodriguez. Actually, well, Jackson, I should let you talk about Rodriguez, but we'll save the reasons why towards the back half of the show. Charlie, Rodriguez was a horse that I was planning on using in the Derby. Again, had I believe, a foot issue. Ended up not running. On paper, he is early speed, but let's talk about his career in general. Was running in small fields against, monsters or supposed monsters like Citizen Bull and others. Really put it together in the wood. Smith hops back aboard. You got Baffert on the lead at a little bit of a price. I mean, there's things to like here with Rodriguez.
Yeah, certainly. And I feel like whenever you see a Baffert at any of these big races, it's always a very polarizing horse where typically people are either really on the horse or completely off and want nothing to do. Rodriguez has always been interesting for me because this is the Baffert that I've never quite figured out or known how I feel. Unlike, Citizen Bull, for example, who I've always shared very strong opinions on. In the Wood Memorial, I believe on the Betton and Buzenshire, I was the only one to have Rodriguez in my top 3. I believe I had him second behind Grande. I think Rodriguez really proved himself in the Wood Memorial. As you mentioned, Howard, obviously I get, he ran against journalism, he ran against Citizen Bull, he ran against Barnes, some of these other big names, Baeza. But the big question at the time, again, was only running in California, always running in these smaller fields. How legit is he? And I think that was a question we had for a lot of these Bafferts. And then in the Wood Memorial, ships across the country decide Baffert wants to let him try to prove himself there. I know they didn't set crazy fractions, but nonetheless, it's not like he walked the dog either, and he was able to win going away convincingly, which I think also, gives you some positivity to maybe think that he can get this distance. And then, I think the other part of it, like we talked about at the beginning, there's not a crazy amount of pace in this race. I mean, I think journalism will make him honest if Crudo doesn't make him work all that hard on the front. I just think journalism naturally has enough tactical speed to not let him get too loose. But I also think out of the two horses that we know before, between Rodriguez and Crudo, there's a lot less questions about Rodriguez. He's a lot more proven. And I think because of the big three in this race, which will be a common theme we talk about, you'll probably get right around 6-1. I mean, maybe he drifts down ever so slightly, but I think you're going to get a square price on him. And if you think he can get loose, which is not impossible, he's a horse who got brave last time on the lead when he did it at the furthest distance yet and the biggest field he's faced yet. So and he's working well. So I think there's a lot to like for Baffer. And when I'm saying that, that's something to key in on, because let's say I'm not the most positive about his horses in the past.
Yeah, look, we get it. It's a love-hate relationship with Bob Baffert, but you can't doubt you can't question his unbelievable record in general in his career in the Triple Crown. Jackson, I know you're always trying to find a little bit of a price, and again, we'll talk about your top pick a little bit later, but let's talk about number 4, Uncaged, who I don't think will be the longest shot on the board because of Pletcher and size. I think the outside horse will probably end up being the longest shot on the board, but this is a late entrant for Windstar and Rapoli. Didn't run very well in the Peter Pan. Did win well two back in the mud. Has some upside. Curlin, obviously Pioneer of the Nile on the dam side, but has a long way to go to match up with these horses, you would think.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to make a strong case for this one, right? I mean, the Peter Pan left a lot to be desired. He was beaten very, very easily by Hill Road, and Hill Road himself isn't, one of the shorter prices in this field. So he's got several lengths to make up, even on figures and everything. I guess the one positive thing you could say is he's definitely a horse that thrives in the mud, and it seems like we might get a little bit of weather on Saturday. I guess that can move him up a little bit, but even then, I mean, it's tough to see. I mean, Sovereignty and Journalism and Baeza all ran well in the slop too. I don't really think you're supposed to downgrade those horses should it come up wet. So kind of tough to make a strong case for this one, but it's got to respect these connections a little bit and definitely respect the pedigree in this horse.
Paul, I recall a horse named Curlin, or as you like to call your favorite horse, Curly, did pretty well at Monmouth in the Breeders' Cup Classic one year, didn't he? In the slop. You're muted, Paul.
4-1. If I could bet one race over again, that would be the race.
Yeah.
It's not going to rain, by the way.
All right. Well, let's hope not. Let's hope not. Don't talk about weather, people. It's going to upset Paul.
No, you can talk about it all you want. It's not going to rain.
All right. There you go. I love it. It never rains in Saratoga. You'll be there, by the way, Paul, correct? Covering
tomorrow at this time, I will be winging my way west. Not as far west as Jackson, but far enough for me. Ryan Anderson apparently is beating me there. He's arriving tonight. So I hope to see Ryan at some point over the next few days.
Yes, co-host of Pacific Horse Players, got his own podcast along with Jackson Muniz. They do a great job. You should check them out. He is on his way as we speak right now to Saratoga. Let's talk about Crudo. This is the other one, Paul, the other Pletcher, 15-1 morning line. A lot of people had some doubts with him in his last race because that Keeneland race was just, although he ran fantastic, it was a weak field. Boy, he ran a big race in the Sir Barton. Another sort of late entrant, justified of a deputy minister mare. This horse has every right to be very good down the road. Is this too much too soon? Is he going to put pressure on Rodriguez? Your overall thoughts on this bit of a surprise entrance for Pletcher?
Howard, I will have him as a C in my grid because if I'm alive into this race, I think 15-1 is legit. I think it likely is too much too soon. However, we all know Pletcher's success in this race. And, I don't know how good that field was in the Sir Barton, but, this horse was challenged mildly and then just kind of had another gear. When he took off, I think he won by 7.5. You'll see here he's in front every step of the way, and someone's going to pull up almost next to him, and then right on coming off the turn, Johnny V just says go. And again, I don't know what he ran with. He's at an 84, but you got to think he's going to move forward off an 84. Now Is it going to take like a 105 to win this race? Is he going to move forward 20 points? I don't know. But you know what? Does he have a puncher's chance? He's one of those horses I was talking about in the intro that I don't think is a hopeless long shot. I think he has a chance, albeit not a great chance, but I would not totally throw him out.
The number 6 is Baeza. I'm going to go to Patrick on this one. John Sheriff's, Flavien Prat. Patrick, a lot of people wanted Baeza to get into the race, into the Derby. He did. I thought he ran a huge race. His upside is big. Of course, most people know about his dam Puka, who's just unbelievable. This is the dam of Mage and Doronak, hoping to get another Triple Classic winner here with Baeza. A lot of things to like here, Patrick, and he's been rested and working well on the West Coast for this event on Saturday.
Yeah, would that be what, back to back for Big Brown Mare Puka? Listen, that race in the Derby, Howard, you hit on it. I had to deal with a lot of trouble. I thought, rewatching that over and over again. And I think, John Sheriff's, shipping this horse out east just sort of validates, the intentions here. I think even more, I do get it's a grade 1 Triple Crown, but I do think there's a lot of intent in here. And I think should sit, a prime stalking trip. We just have to wonder if he's good enough to beat, his two foes that he's, had to run into, journalism, twice now, and sovereignty again. So I do think Baeza is interesting, but you're getting half the price of what we've gotten in the past if you take that into consideration. Right. But I do think we have a 3-headed monster here with these 3 horses.
Yeah, he has, like you said, he has lost to journalism twice, but not by very much, and definitely has some upside. Let's talk about journalism. What a just courageous run, Charlie, for journalism last time in the Preakness. Everyone watched it. It was incredible. We talked in detail about the incident, the bumping. We certainly don't need to talk about that anymore. Hats off to Michael McCarthy. I think we all agree what a training job this guy's done. And McCarthy said this week that journalism looks the same as he's looked really all along. There's no reason not to run him. I love that. Eclipse Thoroughbreds. There's really almost nothing not to like about journalism, unless, Charlie, you're worried about the 3rd race in 5 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, he, when I covered it, actually with our good friend Emmett, when I was covering it with Ryan, we talked about the Preakness. I really just said that journalism was in a class of his own on paper. He hadn't put a foot wrong and just kind of looked like he was going to win convincingly. I know obviously only won by a half length, but this is why we talk about watching replays, because everybody knows that he was probably 4+ lengths the best in that field with a cleaner trip. But at the end of the day, he was a game horse. He dug in, like you said, controversy side that we're not going to talk about. The horse himself was just like, I'm not going to lose this race. I'm not letting that happen, and forcefully made sure he won himself. Again, Goska ran its hard out, and credit to that horse, but ultimately journalism just showed that there's levels to this game, and that no matter how good of a ride you get, doesn't matter if you have the best jockey in the stretch of Louis Sides, if you run against a supreme talent like journalism, pretty much anything's possible to win. Ran his heart out in the Derby as well. I'll be honest, he was one that I was, even though I had him in my top 3, I was skeptical about. Again, we talked about the short price. We talked about, yes, ran against Baeza and some others, but at the time Baeza was fairly unproven, had run in a bunch of small fields. How would he do in the Derby? How would he do in such a big field? And I get that he ran second, and that me and some others are right about sovereignty, but by no means did journalism not live up to the hype in that race. He ran absolutely massive, didn't really put a foot wrong, just wasn't the better animal on that particular day. Responded in the Preakness, had the good work. Again, like you said, McCarthy says he's ready to go here. Now we're going to get to see another chance at the showdown. And the thing I wanted to highlight real quick, Howard, is you questioned to Patrick the negative flip on sovereignty of would people bet against sovereignty because of the issue of him not running. I would flip it that I think it would be less about that. And I would wonder, do you think, if anything, journalism will bet even more because the casual bettors are going to see him as like the people's champ, and people who aren't into horse racing like us kind of saw what sovereignty did as like load management, which everybody hates in basketball. So I kind of wonder if people are going to be betting journalism and see him as like the rightful Triple Crown. He's ran in every leg. Like, people are just going to be really pushing to bet him to win because they think he's the one who's doing it like the right way.
I think it's fair to say that the general public in this country, again, in general, will be rooting more for journalism than sovereignty, only because of what happened this week and the situation that you said. But you got to bet with your head, people, now with your
Oh, I
heart.
agree.
And I'm going to talk about that as we go on here through the show. Jackson, if there's one horse, I don't know if this is your opinion, Jackson, or other people's on the screen. To me, if there's one horse that wished this race was a mile and a half, I think it's Heart of Honor. I give the connections a lot of credit, Jackson, for running back here in 3 weeks. And Jamie Osborne's an excellent trainer from Europe. But this horse has a little bit of trouble getting out of the gate. It just seems too plotty for me. That being said, I mean, if you want to throw a bomb underneath, I don't think this is the worst, 30-1 or 40-1 shot we've seen in a Triple Crown race.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea of putting him like at a super or something, maybe even for third. The problem with him is he's just such a deep closer in a field full of deep closers. There's, you got two speed horses in here, and I guess Journalism and Baeza are somewhat tactical, and then you got 4 just stone cold 1-run closers, and he's, the 4th best of those closers in this race.
Right.
He's got to take a big step forward in this spot, but again, I don't hate the idea of putting him in your superfectas.
He also acted up in the gate, just let everyone know. I don't know if people saw that before the Preakness. Jackson, just quick question, then we'll get on to the pace projector and get everyone's top 3 picks. In your opinion, acting up in the gate, I know there's different degrees of acting up. I don't know if you saw exactly how much he acted up before the Preakness. How much could that affect a horse? I mean, how many lengths are we talking, or is that overblown a little bit?
I think it's a little overblown. I mean, some horses, they're going to do that every single time, and some horses, it's a bad sign for them, and some it's a good sign. It means they're ready to go. It's kind of a case by case thing with this one. I would have to go back and see if he's done it in some of his races overseas as well.
No question. Yeah, well, he's never been a great gate horse, but in terms of actually, he's just been breaking a little bit slow. He's got a little Sierra Leone from last year in him. It's not that he stumbles or anything. He's just not the quickest breaker out of that. Let's look at the time form, guys, then get our top 3 picks. Time form. We are sponsored by DRF here on the HHH Racing Podcast. We really do appreciate all their efforts. Let's look at the time form, guys, right now on the screen for the 2025 Belmont. They've got the number 5 Crudo ahead of Rodriguez. That's a interesting comes from Paul Halloran. They've got Crudo on the lead with Rodriguez and then Baeza in third. Jackson, let me stick with you in a second. Do you agree that that's how they're going to look as they enter the first turn?
I'd be surprised. Correct me if I'm wrong. The time form pace figures, they use all of the horses' races into consideration, right? It's not just like
that is correct. That is correct.
Because the problem with that is Rodriguez was just wrestled back, and those 2 starts at Santa Anita, he was not asked to go lead at all because of stablemates were in there. So he looks slower on paper than he actually is. If they want the lead, they want the lead in this race. They're going to the front.
I agree.
We'll see what happens. Is he good enough? It's a completely different question. Is he going to get pressed? Different question completely. But I'd expect him to be in front.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that. But I think the big Paul. Go ahead. You want to mention something?
I wanted to say something about pace, if I could.
Please do. Please do.
I wanted to share some very interesting stats from my good friend and your friend Howard, Dr. Jeff Mora, who was bored last night having scotch, so he did some research. He went back to 2015 and did, effectively, we're talking about the Travers here, right? It's 1.25 mile dirt. So he took the 9 Travers in last year's Belmont, which would be 10 races, and only 2 horses have won from more than 3.5 lengths back. That would be Keen Ice, who, of course, upset American Pharaoh,
of course,
and Code of Honor, who won the Travers for Shug in 2019. So, for whatever that's worth, that's 2 out of 10, 20%. That's 80% of the horses have won the Travers in last year's Belmont from the lead or less than 3.5 lengths back.
Interesting. And Saratoga is a pretty demanding 1.25 miles. It's usually a relatively deep surface. Now, people need to remember last year it was quite speed favoring this festival week. We'll see if that plan plays out or not this week in 2025. Guys, let's go ahead and I'm going to put everyone's top picks on the screen. I'm going to go around the room here, so to speak, and get your opinions on the race again, about the 2 minutes, guys, in general. For the audio listeners, let me go ahead and read our top picks. I am going in the 2025 Belmont Stakes. I'm going 6-2-7. Paul's going 2-6-7. Jackson's going 3-7-2. Patrick is going 2-7-6, and Charlie's going 2-6-7. Amazingly, at least I think it's a little surprising, of the 5 intelligent, well, I don't know about me, but 4 to 5 intelligent people on the screen, no one in this expert panel is picking journalism on top. Paul, let's go with your thoughts here. You're going to go with your boy and Mr. Mott, Sovereignty, going against the grain of the stat you just gave, because he does like to come off it. You're going to go with Sovereignty, the Kentucky Derby winner.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what I think is a real factor here. And, we talked about my favorite horse of all time, and that would be Curly in 2007, who did contest all 3 races. With any luck, could have won the Triple Crown, had a bad trip in the Derby, and he got nosed in the Belmont. Now, look at Rags to Riches is a Hall of Fame level filly. She hasn't been put in yet, I don't believe, but she's on the ballot. I am telling you, there is no way, shape, or form that if she was running her 3rd race in 5 weeks, she beats Curlin on the square in the Belmont Stakes. Okay, it is a difference. Now, look I have nothing bad to say about journalism. I agree with everyone who tips their hat. Oh boy, that's bold. Tips their hat to Mike McCarthy. I think if anyone bets that way because they're happy he ran 3 times, I'm glad it's a pari-mutuel game. But that's their prerogative. But my point is, and he could prove me wrong, and I'm looking forward to being there to see it. And he may be more tactical, but I do think in today's, the way they run horses today, the 3rd race in 5 weeks is a factor. And, Sovereignty beat him on the square. I'm going to go, if I hear one more person say he ran the best race in the Derby, not a lot, but I've heard whispers of it. He ran a damn good 2nd in the Derby, and he's a great horse. But I think Sovereignty is coming out of his skin. He has worked well. He's trained well. He just looks like he's all systems go. So,
Paul,
you guys who picked Baeza, I could make a good case for him I like that pick. I think Baeza ran huge in the Derby. So,
well, thank you. I'm the only one that's picking Baeza, but I'll go last. Patrick, piggybacking on what Paul, you're also going with Sovereignty. He has been working more forward, Patrick, and I have a feeling, I don't think it's going to be up close, but I do have a feeling Junior's going to try to hustle him out a little bit and be more mid-pack as opposed to 7 or 8 back.
Yeah, I would like to think so too, as being a backer for this horse in this race. Yeah, Paul pretty much hit on everything I wanted to say. I don't need to repeat too much in here, but I mean, I do think we have to bring up this horse can improve again. There's no reason why he shouldn't. And if he does, the others in here might be running for 2nd.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Junior prefers to be on the outside with this horse, but he's got plenty of time, Patrick, to long run to that first turn. You'd assume that he's going to save ground throughout the race and then tip out, to the outside in theory and see what he can do, right? I mean,
yeah,
that seems logical.
Sure. Yep, I would think so.
Patrick, you can bet I'll be attempting to glean some information on the Oklahoma side on Thursday and/or Friday morning, and if I do, I'll be happy to share.
That would be great.
Wonderful. Paul, feel free to share with everyone. That'd be just fine. I think
that was understood.
Jackson, appreciate that. Let's go to you, Jackson. Jackson, very intelligent gentleman, always trying to find different angles. I was about to ask, before I saw everyone's picks, Jackson, I was going to ask, does anyone on the screen feel like the top 3 can get beat? Stupid question now, because you already answered that question. You're going to go with Rodriguez. So not only do I want you to explain the pick, but in that explanation, in what scenario is Rodriguez going to beat the top 3? Is it only wiring the field? Could he sit off a Crudo, hold off the others? Give us your opinion on how Rodriguez upsets the field here in the Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, first I got to be very clear. He is in no way, shape, or form the most likely winner. He's not the 2nd most likely winner. He's not the 3rd most likely winner. He's just the best value, I think. I think there's several scenarios where if they run the race 100 times, I think he's getting a pretty easy lead a majority of the time. I don't think Crudo's that fast, to be honest. I think he's going to clear this field, and we'll see if he's good enough going, coming around the final turn. I do think 6-1 is good value on this horse. He's the one horse that we don't know how good he is because, the Wood hasn't really come back. We don't know yet because Grande hasn't run either. And a lot of question marks about the Wood. We know the number came back good, and we know he might be in front by himself. So that's good enough for me. 6-1, I think, is a little too high. I've been all over journalism's the last 2 races. He might be way overbet this race, where I don't think he was the last couple races, so I don't need journalism. It's going to be interesting. I'm not going to bet this race too heavily, to be honest. I'm super excited to see it as a fan. I'm so glad these 3 horses are running in it. I hope they all throw down. I hope Rodriguez is in there too at the end. I hope it's a great race. I mean, this is probably the most excited I've been for a Triple Crown race in a while.
Oh, I'm excited too. I think if Mike Smith rides this race the way that fans of Rodriguez want him to, and Jackson, I don't know if you agree with this, I'd like to see him obviously get to the lead and then float a little wide on the turn, because you got to imagine the final turn, because you got to imagine Journalists becoming wide, Sovereignty might be coming wide. I know that everyone's going to say, well, then someone's going to win off the rail. So be it. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Mike floats these horses a little bit wide on that final turn. Not unfairly, just race riding. Would you advise that if you're a fan of Rodriguez?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you're not the fastest horse in this race. You got to do what you can to create some distance between you and these other horses who have a much better kick than you. I mean, there's 3 horses that are legit that are being running you down late. Right. Got to get as much separation as you can, cut as many corners as you can.
And maybe even open up as they approach the final turn, right? I mean, if you're betting Rodriguez, you wouldn't mind seeing Mikey just open up 4 or 5 lengths, a la Arrogant, and just try to blow the field apart and get everyone off the bridle, right?
I would love to see him send out of the gate, open up 3 or 4, take him back a little bit that second or third quarter, and then do your thing after that. Yeah, that's your ideal trip there. That's how you ride the speed horse. A little bit.
Absolutely, should be fascinating. Charlie, you're the last one, and then I'll end it here. You're also, boy, a lot of Sovereignty love. I get it. What odds do we get on Sovereignty? 2-1 morning line. Charlie, you think he might drift up a little bit? I think journalism 8-5. We know David Aragon does an awesome job, Charlie, with the morning lines. What odds do you think Sovereignty will go off at? And what are the lowest odds you'd be willing to put a win bet on him?
Yeah, I think you'll probably get 2-1 to 5-2. It would not completely surprise me if he drifted up to 5-2. I think 2-1 is fair value. I'd even take 9-5, honestly. I think that's probably where I'd cut it off and then start to feel like I can't take it. I think it's more so just number of horses and number of real contenders in this field. Why? Not that I don't think there's enough, legitimate horses compared to him. Look, I've been on Sovereignty from the start. I bet him his debut at Saratoga. He was one of the horses I wanted a future on, but I wasn't taking 18-1. Little did I know that was value at the time. I've said it so many times with when I picked him to win the Derby. They've been very strategic, Godolphin and Belmont, of where they're placing him. Every single race is calculated. They know exactly what they're doing with this horse. They're being careful with him. And one of the things I love is that he's actually apparently now working well in the mornings, which was a big knock on him that never bothered me, because at the end of the day, what matters most is if you show up, on the day that counts. So the fact that he's working well makes me even more excited. I agree with what you were kind of hinting at and Pat was building on, that we might not have even seen the best of him. I don't think we have. I think he can take another step forward. Like Paul said, I think journalism ran a huge race in the Derby, but I think Sovereignty was the better horse and ran the better race that day. I think he can take another step forward. I like that he's well rested. I know there's the question of will he have too much to do, but again, I think that they're going to be smart with Sovereignty and make sure he's within, 5 lengths or so that he doesn't have a crazy amount to do late. I trust that he'll be able to navigate this trip. I understand that, he doesn't have the background at Saratoga like he did at Churchill when he came back for the Derby, but, he still ran a massive debut there. He closed from the clouds, and I get that he ran 4th, but that was also in a sprint, which is not his game at all. That was only his debut as well. I absolutely think that the way the course plays can work towards him. I will say, and I'll let you segue into this, Howard, with the 6. I was never going to pick journalism. Odds aside, I don't think he's going to win here. I was really back and forth on Baez, and maybe it's the bias because of the Mage and Dornoch connections with me and that they've done well in these New York races. But I'm curious what you have to say, because I was actually talking to Noah right before we went live, and I was slowly almost talking myself into it, but I was like, I can't switch up on Sovereignty.
Well, I think this will be a great race, and I appreciate all your guys' input for sure. Here's my feeling, ladies and gentlemen. Jackson, you talked about value. Value has to be toward the top of your list of items to think about anytime you're betting any horse race, whether it be main claiming 10 or a grade 1. I think Baeza is clearly the value of this race. I think, the connections with sheriffs, it is Flavian, but we might, 7-2, I think would be unbelievable value. Not only is he one of the more likely winners of this race, in my opinion, he's going to be the third choice in this race, almost guaranteed. And guys, if he breaks, he didn't break fantastically in the Derby. I watched that race 3 times earlier today just to make sure I wanted to go with Baeza. Baeza didn't break great. If he breaks well, he's just I just imagine him sitting a fantastic trip. outside of either Crudo and or Rodriguez. If he's not second, he's probably going to be third, in the clear, guys, because I don't think Journalism's nearly as quick as Baeza early. I don't think Baeza is going to be that far in front of Journalism, but he will be in front. And unless the Heart of Honor can learn how to break, Baeza is going to get first run on the other two. I feel very strongly about that. And I was against him in the Derby, guys. I'll just flat out say I was against Baez in the Derby. What he did in the Derby, where he went to the inside, then had to wait and sort of had studied in behind some of the others, and Journalism and Sovereignty got the jump. He closed, guys. His final eighth was really impressive. And I think by far, he has the most upside of anyone in this field. I think we know what Journalism is. I think we know who Sovereignty is. I'm not sure who Baeza is. And if someone's going to run a 106, 107 in the Belmont, I think it's going to be Baeza. I love Baeza in this spot. I think he's got a major shot. I have nothing against Sovereignty or Journalism at all. And I think the Rodriguez cheeky pick by Jackson is very interesting. I think Baez is going to sit a great trip. Flavian's going to get him in the right spot. I'm going to go with Sheriffs and Puka, the dam, with Baez. I'm going 6-2-7. Guys, very quickly on the bottom of the screen for everyone, there are amazing special 2-day bets. Now, whenever you watch this, ladies and gentlemen, some of these might have already happened as we're filming here Tuesday afternoon, but there is an all dirt pick 6 Friday into Saturday. That's a 20-cent base. There's an all turf pick 5 Friday into Saturday. That's a 50-cent base bet. There are several very interesting 2-day pick 4s, sort of like the golden hour kind of bet, Jackson. If you heard about this, they're the last 2 races on one card into the first 2 races on the next card. And that happens Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. In other words, Wednesday and Thursday, Thursday and Friday, Friday and Saturday. Very interesting 2-day bets to end one card and to begin the card the next day. They also have some special 1-day doubles that are not back-to-back races. And then very interesting, I have to get in touch with my good friend Davey Lane. The Epsom Derby Belmont double is also available. It's going to be amazing, guys. 27 stakes. We ready for this? 27 stakes over this festival at Saratoga for $11.275 million. Thanks a lot to Paul Halloran, Charlie Freeman, Patrick Hunzel, and Jackson Muniz. This is our HHH Racing Podcast 2025 Belmont Stakes preview. And as we always say at the end of our show, crush your bets in the Belmont Stakes. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.